Return is not spiritual. Return is structural. Before belief, before fear and myth, life is governed by constraints. Life exists only where conditions allows it to persist. When those conditions fail, life does not argue, it dissolves. An environment that absorbs that dissolution matters more than any philosophy built around it. All life must return to water, because water is the only medium capable of receiving life without collapsing under the burden of receiving it. This is not a poetic statement. It is a system's fact. Life accumulates complexity. Complexity generates waste, heat, entropy, and imbalance. If that accumulation is not absorbed, the system collapses. Land cannot absorb unlimited biological consequence. Air cannot absorb it. Fire destroys it too quickly. Water alone can absorb, dilute, redistribute, and integrate biological residue at planetary scale. This is why life does not merely begin in water, it depends on water as its final regulator. Return is not cyclical mysticism, it is the waste management at a cosmic scale. Every organism is a temporary concentration of matter, energy, and information. That concentration creates internal order by exporting disorder outward. This exported disorder must go somewhere. Over time, water becomes the primary recipient. Cells release waste into fluid. Bodies release waste into water systems. Ecosystems release waste into rivers and oceans. Civilizations release waste into the sea. This is not moral failure. It is inevitability. The difference between survival and collapse is whether the receiving system can absorb the load. Water can definitely do that. That is why life must return to water. Modern humans misunderstand this because they separate life from environment. This separation is conceptual, not real. Life is not an entity placed inside an environment. Life is a temporary organization of environment. When organization fails, environment reclaims structure. Return is reclamation. Biologically, death is not disappearance. It is loss of containment. Membranes rupture, boundaries fail, fluids move freely, pressure equalizes, the distinction between organism and surroundings dissolves. This process is fastest and most complete in water. On land, return is delayed. Bodies dry, rot, and fragment slowly. But in water, decomposition accelerates integration. Bacteria thrives, nutrients disperse, matter rejoins circulation. This is not preference, it is efficiency. Nature favors efficiency over sentiment. That is why aquatic decomposition plays such a central role in nutrient cycles. Marine snow, detritus, plankton blooms. Entire food webs are built on death returning to water. Life feeds on life because water distributes death correctly. This is why ocean sustains more biomass than land despite appearing empty. Life in density is not visible when it is distributed correctly. Human cultures resist this understanding because it destabilizes individuality. If life is temporary organization and water is inevitable return, then identity is conditional, not absolute. That threatens narratives of permanence. Marine spirituality does not soften this, it clarifies it. All life must return to water because water is where biological bookkeeping happens. When every atom borrowed is eventually returned, water keeps the ledger. This is also why water boundaries define hospitability. Where water recedes, life recedes. Where water accumulates, life reorganizes. Floodplains become fertile because water deposits accumulated nutrients. Deltas form because water slows and releases load. Water decides where life can exist by deciding where return is manageable. Deserts are not cursed. They are environments where return exceeds absorption. Water accumulates too fast, then life thins. Oceans never desert because they never stop absorbing. This absorption capacity is where water becomes the dominant evolutionary medium. Life that evolved in water learned early that waste must be handled immediately. There is no away in water. Everything dissolves into shared space. This forced early life to develop regulation, cooperation, and balance. Marine organisms evolved symbiosis because isolation is impossible in fluid systems. What one organism releases, another encounters. Return creates interdependence. Terrestrial life later learned avoidance. Waste could be buried. Distance could be created. Consequence could be delayed. This allowed complexity but also allowed denial. Denial does not eliminate return, it postpones it. Modern civilization is built on postponement, sewers, landfills, emissions, offshore dumping. These are technologies of delay, not solutions. Water is where delay ends. That is why environmental collapse expresses itself first through water. Polluted rivers, dead seas, rising oceans, acidification, these are not isolated crises. They are signals that return is exceeding absorption capacity. When that happens, water does not stop accepting return. It changes form, it rises, it spreads, it destabilizes margins. Coastal cities flood because they were built on the assumption that return could be controlled. That assumption was false. All life must return to water because water enforces closure in open systems. Without closure, systems destabilize. Closure does not mean ending. It means reintegration. This applies to psychological systems too. But this episode is not psychology, it is structure. Organisms that resist return accumulate toxicity. Cancer is one expression of failed cellular return. Cells stop exporting waste correctly. They hoard resources, they ignore system limits, they multiply without regard for absorption capacity. Cancer behaves like a civilization that forgot water. Bodies respond by flooding tissues, cutting off supply, or killing cells outright. These are corrections mechanisms. Water always participates. Even in cremation, water returns. Ash dissolves into underground water. Gases condense, moisture carries remnants. There is no exit for circulation. The fantasy for transcendence without return is land-based arrogance. Marine life never had this fantasy. Fish does not imagine legacy. Coral does not resist corrosion. Whales die and become ecosystems. Death feeds life because water makes feeding possible. This is not kindness, it is balance, and balance does not require meaning. Marine spirituality emphasizes this because humans have mistaken meaning for necessity. Meaning comforts, necessity governs. All life must return to water because water is the only system that scales. Individual organisms scale to ecosystem, ecosystems scale to biospheres, and biospheres scale to planetary regulation. Water links every scale without changing its fundamental behavior. This continuity is rare. Fire does not scale, earth does not scale, air does not scale, but water does. That is why water is everywhere life is. And where life fails, water eventually remains. Even on planets, scientists search for water first. Not because water guarantees life, but because water cannot persist without eventual return of water. Mars lost water, the planet Mars. Life collapsed. Water retained, Earth retained water. Life diversified. This is not spiritual, it is geological destiny. The ocean is not sentimental about this. It does not mourn extinction. It absorbs it. It does not celebrate life. It regulates it. Life returns to water because water does not cling. It moves on without resentment. That is its power. Humans cling. Clinging creates suffering. Marine spirituality does not teach surrender as virtue. It teaches alignment as survival intelligence. If you understand return, you stop building as if permanence is old. You stop treating water as background. You stop pretending separation is stable. You build with flow. You live with margins. You plan for dissolution. This is not pessimism, it is realism. All life must return to water because water is where life can end without poisoning the future. If death stayed localized, ecosystem would choke. If waste stayed fixed, life would stall. Water keeps life moving forward by absorbing what no longer functions. Return is not the opposite of life. Return is how life continues. Thank you.